From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Hi, I'm Mary Quattlebaum, and I am the regular reviewer of middle grade and teen fiction for the Washington Post Book World. And the Washington Post is a charter sponsor of the festival and has indeed been an enthusiastic sponsor for all 13 years of the festival's existence. Well, we are ending the 2013 National Book Festival on a wonderful note with Kathryn Erskine. Kathy and I have been friends for many years, since college. And so it is just truly thrilling for me to be up here to help celebrate Kathy and her books. Critics praise Kathy's books for their compassion, vivid characters, and nuanced treatment of tough subjects. Kathy is the author of 4 award-winning novels, including Mockingbird, which is the winner of the National Book Award. She's going to talk today about her latest novel, Seeing Red, which I have read and indeed loved. And it's about a boy who is wrestling with racial injustice in 1978. In her writing, Kathy likes to draw on her experiences as a kid growing up in many countries, including the Netherlands, Israel, South Africa, Scotland, and Canada. And in Scotland, the school that she went to was a lot like Hogwarts in the Harry Potter books, except there was no magic. Kathy still likes to do the things she did as a kid. She likes to climb trees, jump off hills, and leap across creeks. Now, it just hurts more to do that, she says. But she continues to love traveling. In fact, here's a cool fact about Kathy. She is scheduled to do school visits in 15 countries from now until 2015. So you will be quite a globetrotter, literally. So if you can join me in welcoming author, tree climber, and world traveler, Kathryn Erskine. And I forgot a huge thing before I bring you on, Kathy. We want to make sure that we thank all the volunteers at the festival today. If this is a closing event, yay, yes, already you're starting to clap, yay. We could not hold the festival without the volunteers, and we know them by their orange shirts, so if you've had a great time over the past 2 days, make sure you tell at least one volunteer thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. That was lovely. It's great to see you all, and I'm going to talk today about Seeing Red, as she said, which is not actually out until Tuesday, but the lovely folks at Scholastic and Barnes & Noble brought copies here, so if anybody wanted one early, they could get one. I will leave plenty of time at the end for questions and answers. So if you want to talk about other books, or you have your own writing questions, or you want to know what I had for breakfast, or anything, you can ask those. Seeing Red comes from my personal experiences witnessing racism where I grew up in South Africa and Virginia and Alabama in the 1960s and 70s. It's not autobiographical, but those harsh and very real events are what inspired this book. And that's what writers do. We take these things that have happened to us, often not really nice things that have happened to us or concern us, and mix it all up into a story. Sometimes we borrow an actual event or phrase from real life, but mostly it's a matter of creating our own characters and events to tell a story. I always write stories that I want to read, so I use humor because I like to laugh. And I include things that not everyone knows because I like to learn things, especially painlessly through a novel, and something of substance because I like to be able to ponder things. It's important for us to think. It's not always an easy process for an author. Seeing Red had a very long road to publication. I found files on my computer dating from 1999. That's a long time ago. This was definitely a story that had to age and ripen. It started out long and rambling and very old-fashioned-y sounding, if that's a word, old-fashioned-y, I'm not sure. And my friend and mentor, Mary Quattlebaum, by the way, isn't that an awesome name for a children's author, Quattlebaum? It's just such a fun name to say, Quattlebaum. But I was one of Mary's mentors. We knew each other from college, but I got to go to her living room and take seminars on how to write. And she was always very kind about my writing. So kind that she even contacted her, I don't remember if it was her agent or editor at the time, because it's been a long time, to read a very early draft of Seeing Red. And poor Mary was probably like cringing, like, do you want to look at this? It was rejected. It was a resounding no. It wasn't even one of those, if you could clean it up a little bit, I'd like to see it again. It was definitely no. So I worked on it, and I actually sold it. So that is actually the beauty of rejection. It really is important to be told sometimes that this is not very good. You need to go back and really work on this because you can. You can do it better. And that is a great life lesson, too, for any endeavor, is just to keep working at it, pull the best out of yourself, and you will be able to do something wonderful with what you've got. So, the good news, I sold a book, right? That was exciting, my first book. But then my publisher, this was before Scholastic, merged with another one, and I ended up with a different editor. And she wanted a lot of changes, and so many that it kind of made it not my book anymore, and I really wasn't very happy with it, and I didn't want my name on it. So I had to pull it, which was a hard thing to do. So it lay in a drawer or on the computer for years. And now and again, I'd go back to it and pull it out, see if I could resurrect it, and think, oh, it's still so messed up. I always had plenty of other manuscripts to work on, so that wasn't an issue. Then I guess when people who knew the story, my writing group, some kids I'd read parts of the story to, kept asking, what's happening with those characters? I want to know what happens. That helped me go back and get it right. And to be honest, those characters still nagged at me. Red, I couldn't ignore because he was still inside me, wanting to come out. Beau was a sweetheart. I couldn't just leave him. I couldn't leave Rosie hanging. So I went back to it, and lo and behold, it wasn't as awful as I thought. I realized I can work on this. I can fix it. So that's another lesson. Just keep trying. And I thought, I think I know now exactly what I want to say, and I'm just going to say it. Some people may not like it, but that's too bad. I'm established enough as a writer and confident enough now to write the story that I want to tell and not worry about the critics, because racism is a sensitive topic. Besides, I always have my ace in the hole, my sister. She'll buy 100 books at least. And if it doesn't sell at all, she'll buy 1,000. And she's a teacher, so she can tell her students about my book. I bet some of them might even read it. In fact, I read a part of an early draft to her class years ago, 4th graders, and there was one boy in particular, Charles, who kept asking her if I'd finished it yet. every year he'd come back and ask. Then he graduated. Charles has graduated from college now. Guess where Charles went to college? MIT. Charles was obviously very smart. So thank you, Charles, for continuing to ask about this book, because it's you, the readers, that we're producing these stories for. Maybe I should have asked Charles to come up with a title, because that took a long time. The funny thing about titles is it seems I can either hit it right away or I struggle with it for a long time. So some of the titles I had for Seeing Red, the first one was Deer Season, to which my husband said, "You're writing a book about hunting?" I'm like, oh. Okay, so I switched it to Cornerstone, which he said sounded rather heavy and lumpish. So then I tried Freedom's Phoenix, to which he said nothing. I thought, that's not a good sign. And Facing Freedom, which I really liked and he got to like, but then there was a concern that maybe that sounds a little too stolid and textbookish. So a lot of brainstorming later, we came up with Seeing Red, which is a great double entendre for this character, Red, who is now seeing or understanding his world. And also the expression to see red, which means you're angry, because Red is angry about the things that are happening around him. I'm still trying to come up with a title for the book I'm working on now, which is set in the Middle Ages. I love this story, but can't seem to come up with a title that works. So if anybody has like Middle Ages titles ideas, see me afterwards. Okay. But now to get serious for a moment, because I know there are some adults who've read Seeing Red and are concerned that there are too many issues in it for kids to wrap their heads around. The main issue in the book is tolerance, and specifically dealing with racism and asking how we're dealing with racism that still exists. And that's another reason some people may be concerned, but I'm not even going there. As to the concern about too many issues going on in the book, here's my reasoning. First, it's an accurate depiction of the time. This stuff really happened. We tend to think that the early 70s, coming after the very turbulent decade of the 60s, was kind of lame and dull. But having lived through it, I can tell you that that was not true. We had Kent State, Watergate, the Vietnam War, Munich Olympics, IRA, Red Brigade, international terrorists. It was not an easy time to grow up. It was all a little scary and very confusing. Second, a major theme of the book is change. Change is unsettling, disruptive, and disturbing, even if it's change for the good. Change is confusing. So feeling a little bombarded by events is a way to actually experience that theme and not just read about it. And don't you think kids today can identify with unsettling events happening all around them? I won't even list them all, but it's part of their world. They know what it's like. And I don't think it's disturbing to read a book about a kid going through turbulent times. In fact, I think it's comforting because here's a kid who's dealing with his world, and no, it's not easy, but he's surviving it and even wrestling some control over it. That's comforting. Finally, I know you've heard this before, but it's really true. Children are smarter than we realize. I purposely did not write a simple single-issue book. That doesn't mean it's a hard book or a book only for advanced readers. The language is fairly simple. The challenge of this book is to think and to feel. I believe any child is capable of that. In fact, in my experience, given half a chance, children excel at thinking and feeling. And in fact, if we don't ask that of our children and our adults, we've lost something as individuals and as a society. Now, having said all that serious stuff, I do think it's a good story, too, with some fun characters. And I hope I haven't put you off reading it now. If you're not familiar, thank you, with the era of the 1970s, like some of us are, I do have a playlist of songs on my website that evoke that era. They're from that time period, and they're songs that I thought of when I was writing the novel. I'm going to stop there and leave some time for you guys to ask questions of me. So, and there's a microphone here and over here, so just come on up and ask away. These are Kat and Lexi are two of my fans right here. I saw them earlier. Yes.
What inspired you to write a book about well, it's Mockingbird, but what inspired you to write a book about a girl with Asperger's?
Right. What inspired me to write a book about a girl with Asperger's is that my daughter actually has Asperger's. So I kind of knew what it was like from her perspective as well as mine. So I felt I wanted to kind of share that story and let other people see what it was like.
Was it hard to pick a title for Mockingbird?
You know, that was one of the easy ones. Sometimes, you know, like I said, sometimes it's really easy and the other times it's hard. That one just popped into my head. Mm-hmm. Ah, yes.
So I'm a teacher and wanting to...
Yay, teachers! Hooray for all the teachers here.
And I'm wanting to read Mockingbird to my class. But I want to make sure I get her voice right. So the whole look at the person, I want to make sure that I get it. So I was wondering if you'd share the voice.
Yeah, it's a very simple, frank voice. You know, what might she say? She might say, my dad says this is a festival, but I don't think it's very festive. So it's sort of deadpan. Yes, yes. Things that are capitalized are more important to her. So yeah, she probably would emphasize those words. Thank you for asking. We'll do another one here, and then we'll go back to that mic.
What inspired you to invent the different characters in Mockingbird?
The different characters in Mockingbird. Well, that I figured we needed a parent. It couldn't be a mom, though, because what do moms do? Moms always want to solve your problem for you. So I had to make it a dad. And a big brother, you know, somebody who helped her a lot, and a counselor. I put the school counselor in because I think that position is very important, and unfortunately it sometimes gets cut from schools, but I think we cannot afford to do that. And then there's a variety of other teachers and students, some more empathic than others, and it's good to just have that variety. Yes, Suzanne.
I feel like I have so many questions for you. Actually, this comes from one of my students teaching it in summer school. They wanted to know why in Mockingbird you did not give a real description, a face, a name to the shooters. Can I tell you what I said to them so I know if I'm right?
Yes.
I said because then that makes the story about the shooting, and it's not about the shooting, it's about Caitlin.
Thank you. Yes, that's beautiful. A plus. Yes. Thank you. Yes, hi.
Hi, I haven't read any of your books yet because, well, because I have my parents divorced, so it's really hard to keep up with books.
Yeah.
But you sound like a really good author, and I can't wait to read your books.
Thank you. She's not a plant. I did not put her here. She came up by herself and said this.
So, this is one of the most questions I have to ask you. How do you get inspired just by, because, I get yelled at a lot, and I'm you need to
Me
start
too.
reading.
Yeah.
How come I don't read as much as my cousins and stuff do? Well, that's because I always say, I don't want to read the book. I want to write the book.
Oh, good for you.
We live by this lake that's 4 miles, and I was walking with my dad
That's
so it's
right.
like your own world.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
And so daydreaming is good. It's good to have some time to stop and think. And reading is actually good too, as much reading as you can do, because then that exposes you to different genres and different authors and styles. So you might find something that you really like that you didn't realize. Like maybe you didn't realize you like fantasy. So it is good to try read a lot too. So I can see both sides of that. But keep writing. It's great.
is singing red for 7 and up?
Seeing red, you might want to wait a little while before you read that, but thank you. Thanks. You're almost 8. You are getting close. You are. Yes.
How do you spend the day when you write a book?
Oh yeah. How do I spend my writing day? I like the house really quiet when I write. So I like everybody to get out, off the door, out of the door, go to work, go to school. I need my quiet. And I write at the computer, although I also take walks and sometimes even a power nap. Because what I find is I wake up with all kinds of ideas and I have to write them all down. And if you take a little nap and you wake up again, then you have 2 surges of writing down ideas. So it's a really good tool to use. Thank you. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little more about your book that's going to be set in the Middle Ages?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so it's a boy who wants to prove himself and do that by going to battle. So he's going to go sneak off to battle because he's just only about to turn 13. So he's really too young. But he thinks this is going to be a very cool thing. And what ends up happening is he sees that whole new world out there. He runs into gangs, good and bad, knights who are good and bad. He ends up befriending a knight. He sees monks who are good and bad, and has a lot of adventures along the way. And I'll have to let you decide what you think he feels about going off to battle by the time he's done. But if you like knights and bows and arrows and that kind of thing, you might like that. Should be out about a year from now. And on my website, eventually I'll put what the title is, so you know what to look for. So, yes, did you have a question?
In your books, you have really diverse characters, like in Mockingbird and Absolute Value of Mike. How do you go about making sure that the voice of your main characters is an authentic voice, even though you may not have had those characters have had experiences that you yourself have not had?
Right, that's a good question. I do want to be authentic about any character I'm writing about, so I do a lot of research, and that includes not just book research, but observation, interviewing people to see what it's like to be in that position. And I think I also have a little bit of me in every character. So with Mockingbird, I don't have Asperger's, but we moved around a lot growing up. So I would end up as the new kid at school, not knowing what the school rules were, what you kind of are expected to know and expected to do. So, for instance, when we moved to Scotland, I was in a class where you had a uniform and you had your outdoor shoes and your indoor shoes and your hat and everything had a place, and I didn't know where any of it went, and you were supposed to use certain terminology to address the teachers, and you had to curtsy at the end of the day, which I didn't know how to do, so I went like this. I knew they were kind of dipping, but I didn't get the genteel part of it. So I would go, to a cafeteria or a dining hall and be the weird one and not know where to sit or who to talk to. So I kind of had that feeling of being from a different culture, which is what having Asperger's is like a lot of the time. And for Mike, well, my son has learning disabilities, so I kind of been through that route with him. and I'm also not so great at math, so I can kind of identify with that. Then I don't know. I guess I've known a variety of people, so I can kind of get inside their skin and try to get inside their head, and I really do want to respect differences, because to me it's interesting to be different. As my daughter says, I'm glad I have Asperger's. It makes me different, and I think that's a cool thing. So, thank you. We have like 4 minutes or something left, or 3 minutes, so I just want to give you a chance. You can do repeat questions if you can come again.
I didn't want to hog the mic, but what I admire so much about your books and your characters, Kathy, is that you seem to explore what a hero is, and it's a different image of the warrior hero. And I'm especially thinking of your character in Quaking, which is one of my favorite books that you've written. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about where you got the idea for that character, because she does seem to be the embodiment of a quietly heroic character.
Thank you.
Can
Yeah,
I just
quietly.
say one more thing? We applauded teachers, but the person that just asked that brilliant question, her name is Jess, is a librarian.
Yay, librarians! Woo! So is our volunteer here, a librarian. That's great. Quaking is about a girl who's sent to live with Quaker family that she knows nothing about, and she has had a lot of things happen to her in her past, and she really does not want to open up. So for someone like that who's dealing with bullying and a new situation and difficulties, to have to come out of her shell and stand up for people and protect people is particularly difficult. So you can be, like you say, sort of quietly heroic. It's not about getting the awards or being a star. It's those little things that we do every day to help someone or stand up for someone or stand up for our rights that just help the world improve incrementally. Okay, yeah. You're back. Yeah.
Okay, so how you were saying about bullying is I just started middle school and I moved and I was totally terrified that, oh gosh, it's 2 stories, I'm gonna get lost. Where am I going? Oh my gosh. In my first class, there was this one girl who was asking all these questions, and I found out that she moved too, and we are totally different, but we just came together, and now I'm friends with her friends, and then I was sitting with these other 2 girls behind us, and my friend was friends with one of the girls, and then the girl said, I'm starting to find a 4-row right here, like we're gonna be like 4 connected friends. And I said, cool. And then after that, but we sit different at lunch, and I found out that middle school is hard, and right now I'm not doing so good in math. Shh, don't tell my teacher.
That's all right. Middle school is hard, but good for you that you were listening to hear what that girl was saying and come and be friends with her. That's awesome. Good for you.
Middle school teacher, it'll get better, I promise.
Yes.
I just wanted to also make sure I got to finally tell you in person how much I appreciate that you wrote Mockingbird, especially because I teach children with autism, and it's been phenomenal. I teach social studies, so I get to do language arts in the summer, so I only get to teach summer school. But the last 2 years, I've had a lot of students with autism, and I think it's really neat when they're reading Mockingbird. They go, "Hey, that sounds like me," and it's interesting. So thank you so much for telling it from Caitlin's perspective, because I think the children with autism, whether we understand they don't always get social cues, they don't pick up on subtleties, they pick up on your book.
Oh,
They understand it, and
thank you,
they
Suzanne.
are relating to it, and I really wish more people would read it, especially more people who have children with autism. Autism teachers would really share this book. I try to spread it around as much as possible, you know me. So thank you so much for telling it from Caitlin's voice.
Thank you. That was important to me to do. All right, I think we're running over time, but I think we can take these last 2 questions because there's nobody coming after us. So, go ahead.
From all the books you read, who is your favorite author?
Oh gosh, that is such a hard question for me. How much time do you have to talk about? I love Christopher Paul Curtis. He's one of my favorites. John Green, Phyllis Reynolds Naylor. There's so many wonderful authors out there. So never at a loss for good books, right? Yeah.
I'm using the absolute value of Mike for a book project. So what personalities do you think represent Mike?
I think, see if you agree with me. Do you think Mike is a good people person, that he gets along with people pretty well and can talk to them pretty easily?
I only read 1 page of these.
Oh, okay. Well, then I don't want to put ideas in your head. I think it'll be pretty clear what Mike's like, so you'll be able to pick up on that. Thank you for reading it, though, and picking it to do a project with. That's great. Thank you all for coming very much. I appreciate it.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.